Welcome back to Big Dan's Airguns review channel. It's good to have you with us. We're going to be looking at something a bit different today. This is the Reximex Ixia, or Throne as it is known on other parts of the world. Now we're looking at this gun, as we've said, it's not usually the thing that we typically review, but this one, this sort of tactical styled rifle, genuinely might offer something to those looking for, well, this sort of rifle on a sensible budget. These rifles at Big Dan's Airguns, we stock these for £670, which is probably going to be a hell of a lot cheaper than what you'd probably expect to pay for something quite like this. So let's get the gun out, let's have a closer look at it, and let's move on to features and see just what you get for your money. Okay, so features, what do you get for your money? Well, here's where things are a little interesting. The scope, you obviously do not get with the gun, unfortunately. That is a Konus F30 scope. And the bipod is also a Konus unit, as you can probably see by the logo there. And that also does not come with the gun. The other thing I'll mention is this case is different to what you get. The reason why we've got this case here is that this is actually a customer's gun, a package we've put together for him. And the standard case, we'll put it this way, you would not be getting that gun inside the case. It's just too deep. So we've had to get a taller case for him, or deeper case, so it'll fit in there quite nicely. But enough of that, let's move on to features. So at the rear of the gun, you do have an adjustable butt pad, which is nice to have considering these rifles don't really have much of a cheek piece at all. So you can drag that down a bit, like you can see we've done there, and it almost sort of creates one for you, at least makes you a bit more comfortable and gives you a better cheek weld. You do, obviously that's the breech area, you do get 2 magazines as standard, which is nice to have, and if we bring it in a little closer, you might be able to see this is where you also have a power adjuster, which is nice, again, for a hunting application, which is mainly what this gun's going to be used for. You can turn it up to full power, or bring it down to about 6 feet-pounds off memory, but we'll test it out a bit more at the consistency section. As we move further along, you've got a textured grip, which is quite nice, and you've also got the match grade trigger. Again, fully adjustable unit, and the trigger blade itself, you can adjust left, right, up, down, as you can see here, as it's sort of clinging onto that bar. What I will mention though, which is interesting, is the safety. Now, there's a guide on the left-hand side of the trigger guard there, if you can see it. Now, I've not seen many like this before. The rifle at the minute is in safe. To disengage, you push it down like so, and the trigger is then free to move back. All that does is basically it blocks that trigger bar, if you can see that there, from moving all the way back. It's a simple mechanical system, but I tell you what, I genuinely quite like that, because unless you really force it, that is not going to break. The other thing that I quite like is it's a side lever action. We'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the handling section, but what is good is it is reversible. If you come with me just for 2 seconds, here we go. You can see there is a plate on the left-hand side of the gun, held in place with 2 grub screws. If you remove that plate, you can switch the rifle from right to left-handed cocking, for those that are interested in that sort of thing. And there is also, if you can see it about there, is the dial to adjust the power as well. So let's scooch back round to the front again. Sit back on my chair, because I'm getting old. As we come up, you can see it's a rail type, or Weaver Picatinny style rail on top there for your attachments of scopes, dot sights, what have you. And there is another one down below here. Slightly further back, you can see the fill probe. Now this is, it's good and bad. One, it'd be nice if you had a dust cap. The other thing I would say is you do need, at least in the UK, an adapter to really make this work. It's a bit like the Krauls. You need an adapter to plug on there, which is then threaded, that you then thread into your whip sort of thing, so you can fill the gun. It's the wrong size for most whips, so you've got to plug that in. There's not really any way around it. Don't know why they can't make them the correct size straight into the gun, but hey ho, it's a little nitpick, and again, you do get the bit you need anyway to make it work. So slightly further back, you've got the regulator pressure. Now this I'm quite impressed with, because one of the first things I look at if you've got a gauge is what the reg's set at. Now with some of the Chinese gear that we've had, the Artemis gear and such like that, the regulator pressure is set way too high. You're talking about 150 bar, sometimes even a smidge higher than that. With this, it's set at about, what is that, about 120, 115 bar, which for a 177 in the UK is pretty much spot on. And obviously you've got your air pressure gauge just up here. The bottle on the front end is 425cc, and she can go up to 250 bar, so it'll be interesting to see how many shots we've got here. Needless to say, I am not looking forward to the shot count test, and as we may have already said, you have got the accessory rail on the underside there as well. Slightly further up, you have the shrouded barrel, and the best bit is on the end, and it's a thing I really like that the Reximex, Kraul, Benjamin rifles do. You have got a 1/2" UNF thread in there as well, so no funky metric stuff like you can get on some of the Chinese gear and such like that. So Overall, it is an interesting bit of kit. There is one or two things I will point out though that I'm sure the eagle-eyed viewer will say, Dan, skip straight past that, and there's a good reason for it. In the UK, this adjuster on the rear unfortunately has been modified so as it cannot be tampered with. And on the front end here, the regulator adjuster that you'll see on some of the US spec or foreign spec Ixias or Thrones has also been removed. The reason for that is obviously we're limited to a 12 feet-pound limit, and it just helps keep our sport safe, and it stops anybody from potentially turning the power up way too high or accidentally turning the power up too high and potentially being collared by old Bill, shall we say. So fair play, to be honest, to the importers for this. But overall, you do get quite a lot of interesting features, even though that's the case with this, a few bits have been blocked off. There's enough on it to definitely make it still a very interesting choice, we'll put it that way. But I wonder how heavy all these features make this gun. Let's get the scales out and find out. Okay, so she's on the scales and she comes out at 8.78 pounds. We've taken the scope off, obviously. The only thing left on is the bipod adapter, which wouldn't add a great deal. So she's definitely a slightly heftier gun, but how does that feel when it's put into the shoulder? Well, let's take a look at how you load these mags, because there's something I want to show you with this, and we'll find out. As I'm sure you can see by the gloves, it is another freezing cold day, so we know I'm probably going to be fluffing this up more than once, so apologies for that. Now, to the untrained eye, this is a standard Reximex mag. And to the trained eye, this is a standard Reximex mag. That's because this is a standard Reximex mag, but that isn't the difficult bit. So, first things first, we'll have a look at how you load it. So, grab this and spin it round all the way. And make sure to hold it in place, and what you're going to want to do is put your middle finger on the other side of this hole and drop your first pellet in through the front, and that will lock the mag in place. And then as you go, you're just going to load each pellet straight through the top like so until the mag is loaded. However, that's not the bit that's going to catch first time Ixia users out. The bit that's going to catch first time Ixia users out is this bit. Okay, so first thing you're going to want to do, obviously make sure safety is engaged, which it is. Bolt all the way back so you can clear the breech, and what you're going to want to do is, or think you're going to do, is load this mag from right to left like the rest of the Reximex rifles. You can see the guides on the mag there, and you would think it simply goes in this way. Nope, it does not. If I could just switch hands for a second, this might be a little bit awkward. What you're going to do is actually turn this like this and load it in from left to right. So get that groove lined up, like so I believe, and then simply push her in like that. Then when you're done, close the bolt and you're ready to rock and roll. So it's going to catch a few people off guard, but just bear that in mind and it becomes natural pretty much almost immediately. So that's it for loading. Let's put it up to the shoulder now and see what we think. Okay, so handling. What do we think of the Reximex Ixia? Now, I will come clean. I do not like this style of gun. This is not me at all. I like traditional stuff, and it's not just the Ixia. If you ask me, is the FX, say, Impact, Wildcat, anything like that, are they pretty guns? I would give you a resounding no. And again, that's not talking about the gun's performance. I'm sure they're great, but at the same time, I think that this, what did they use in Full Metal Jacket? It's a goddamn art masterpiece, but not in a good way. Now, this surprised me because it's actually not as horrible as I thought it was going to be. It's actually weirdly pleasant. So I hope I'm not turning into one of them. But when you put it into your shoulder, the adjustable butt pad obviously brings this, well, it's hard to call it a stock, but chassis, shall we call it, brings this up. And you've actually got a very, very comfortable cheek weld. Now, I didn't expect that. The thing that also helps, especially with this temperature, you can probably see the condensation coming out of my mouth, it's plastic. Now, normally we don't like plastic on this channel, but when you've got cold weather such as this, you'll be thankful for that, because that is not wanting to freeze itself onto my face. Well, that probably do the viewers a favour because it'd cover most of it up. But yeah, it does not cause any discomfort, shall we say. Now, overall weight-wise, we know she was a bit heavy on the scales, but even though we've got all this MacGuffins on it, we've got the pod, we've got the great big scope, literally, I think it's only one step away from the Hubble telescope, the Konus F30, but it's really not too bad at all. For instance, you can see me waving it around with one hand. It's actually pretty good. I mean, the balance itself is probably just in front of the trigger guard, almost dead center, which surprised me because I thought with that huge bottle and such out here, it was going to be slightly front heavy. It's not. The other thing I'm going to say is if you're looking at a Reximex Ixia, and again, I know it's designed to have this, you will want a pod or something, or a hamster that will fit onto this style of rail, because otherwise your hand's going to be resting on a very cold rail or an even colder bottle, which is not ideal. I personally don't like putting my hands on the bottle. I know some people don't have a problem with sort of cradling it like this. I don't like that because it's a bottle full of very high pressure air. It's a me thing, I know, but it's not me. With this, however, the pod acts a bit like a hamster, and it's in a position where, unlike some where the bipod's right on the front end, you can actually, it feels like a much more compact gun than maybe what it really is, and even lighter than it is, because it works beautifully, even if you don't, as you can see, deploy the pod. But let's have a go now at the trigger and such, the real meat and potatoes of a review. So, oh, that is nice. That is really nice. That is very similar to cocking an AGT rifle. There's no fanfare, there's no major noise. You get the faintest click back here from the mag, and it's just a lovely mechanical, smooth feeling action. That is a very high grade feeling, well, action, as we've said. Let's give this a go. So, safety off. Point it in a safe direction. Bouncing off second stage. And something just died. Yeah, that is really nice. In fact, let me show you. Let's cock it again. Oh, that's so nice. All right, I'll give Reximex, I'll give you credit for this, and the tactical guys. That is a nice system. All right, so point it in a safe space. You can see there bouncing off second stage. And watch this. No creep, no nothing. In fact, little finger. Make sure it's on target again. Little finger. Doesn't get much better than that. That is absolutely smooth as silk. That is already out the box pretty much the perfect hunting trigger straight away. I mean, it is an adjustable unit. You can tweak with it, play with it, do what you want with it. But I don't think you'll need to. I think this is actually the second or third one out the box we've had where it's just absolutely perfect there and then. Now, the safety is an odd one because I don't know if I like it or if I don't. The idea of it, I like. It's different. Basically, in essence, you don't have to put your finger anywhere near the trigger blade. You just push it off the side and down you go. That's great. It keeps your fingers off the trigger. The thing that and it's very easy to access as well. You're not reaching up here for it or around the other side or anything like that. You just plop, plop, that's it. The thing that I don't like about it, however, is, and maybe it's just me being a bit nitpicky, something like that with these little winglets coming off, is there a risk of that getting caught on perhaps branches and things like that and maybe disengaging itself? Maybe not, but that's the thought that goes into my head. But that's it with the safety. One last little thing I want to show you is make sure, let's see, keep the safety on, cock it, safety disengaged. Now this has very, very little noise from the action. If you know even some of the Benjamin rifles, you get a ping from the hammer and hammer spring when you pull that trigger. Have a listen to this. Now there's a little bit of a bark out the front end. There's a slight baffling effect going on with the shroud, but you're definitely going to want a silencer on there. But you tell me if you can hear any pings, knocks or bangs. Ready? Other than the tin we just killed. Next to nothing. It's just a clop and off she goes. That is a very well finished gun. Internally, and to be brutally honest, even externally, even though it's not my cup of tea, this lovely piece of metalwork you've got going on for like the main chassis here is fantastic. So handling wise, yes, I would rather a piece of walnut like you get with some of the Reximexes and the new koozie rifles we stock, but that is genuinely a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. If there's anybody out there at this moment in time, we need to take the review further first because it might absolutely crap itself later on. If there's anybody out there that was tempted with an FX style gun but you don't want to pay silly money for it, shall we say, these are definitely well worth a look, at least to dip the toes with and such like that. But I think this is going to be a massive hit for those that like the tactical style of guns. But like we said, that's no good if the chronograph results are all over the place and you have to fill it up after each shot. So Okay, so apologies for the poor sound quality. We don't have the lapel mics on. We have had to stop filming just for a moment because despite that telling us that the chronograph has a lot of battery, as you can see, we have a battery warning. So we're going to put a fresh one in and continue. For those interested, you can see the rifle's pressure is at around 200 bar, maybe just over at this moment in time. So we got a lot of filming to go. So then, let's get a new one in and carry on. Okay, so we're going to be doing the power adjuster test at this moment in time, just very quickly before we get to the accuracy test. So we're on full power now. We're using the FX 8.4 grain pellets. So we're just going to cock it. And again, 220 bar fill, full power. We'll do 2 shots just to get an idea as to roughly what she's doing. It's 11.37. And once more. That one didn't even register. Let's go again. There we go. That's better, 11.17. So you can see there, as we said earlier, JSBs will give you a higher power output, usually on average, than RWS. So, but as we said, we use RWS for the consistency. So that's 2 shots already, 11.37, 11.17. So if we just whack the power down now on the adjuster. So this is the minimum setting at this moment in time. Let's give that a go. Let's have a shot with this. Again, that didn't even register, but hopefully you can hear the difference between the 2 different shots. Let's have another go. Da-da-da. Oop, there we go, 6.57. Let's go once more because the first one did not register. .77. So put the safety back on. So you can see here the power adjuster works absolutely 10 out of 10, which is always nice. So again, if you're using this gun for hunting, you can take it inside a barn, something like that, and you haven't got to worry about over penetration. Or again, if you just want to use it for some backyard plinking, it's a really nice feature to have. So you can basically, well, same rules apply. You haven't got to worry about damaging furniture or sheds or anything like that. So with that out the way, let's move on now to the fun bit, accuracy testing. Okay everyone, so we've had a few shots off camera as we usually do. Now we might have to do things a little differently because the first tin of pellets that we've tried, which are the FX Airguns or JSB pellets, I think are the only pellets we're going to need. As we look down, a few groups here, obviously zeroing, you can see me bringing it up and such like that, making fine adjustments. And even that, I mean, it looks a bit messy, but it does fit under a £1 coin. Got the same thing here. I'll put it this way, you could easily hunt with that accuracy, no problem at all, out to 40 yards. And obviously you can see there's another group up here as well. We're just sort of trying to suss things out. However, and I've already sent this through, as you know, this is a customer's rifle who's very kindly asked us to review it. Beat that. That is, I honestly can't remember if it's 4 or 5 shots, so we'll say it's 4 to be extra fair. 4 shots at 40 yards, and that is obviously with the Reximex and that rather lovely Konus F30 first focal plane scope as well. I don't think we're going to need to test any other pellets. I mean, we will, and we'll even film some of the results as well. Just obviously because you don't really want to review just about talking, like most of mine are. We want to do some shooting as well and let you guys see what the gun's capable of. And we all want to know what the barrel's like with in regards to pellet fussiness. So, you've got 4 pellets there. You've got 1 pellet just off there. I had a few shots here, and as you can see, it almost missed. So we thought bugger it and went up here, I believe. But it doesn't get much better than that. Can we get that on camera? I doubt it, but we'll see. So let's set the camera up and let's see. Let's have, say, 5 shots, 40 yards. Let's see if we can get that bullseye. Back in a bit. Okay, so how did we get on downrange 40 yards? First thing I'll confess to, you know, we turned the sound down on the accuracy testing because we've got all sorts of trains and things going around here, and in sped up footage it sounds like all sorts of demonic noises, but even at home you can probably tell we put more than 5 shots through it. The main reason for that is, one, I was enjoying myself, which I never thought I'd say with the PCP, but the other thing is we got that flyer, which really annoyed me. And don't get me wrong, excuse me, that's my text messages going off. Don't get me wrong, it's still pretty much a 5p group. You can see there, in fact I think it is a 5p. That's like a crease, I think, with a flyer caught the paper. You can see that there, unless that's maybe 2 shots, but I don't think it is. I'll let you guys judge that. It's still a stonking group. If you take a look, it's still devoured by the 5p piece. Not as brilliant as our 4-shot group that we got off camera, but it is what it is. I mean, if you expected me to match that, you've been around here long enough to know that's not going to happen on this channel. As simple as. The camera comes out and it goes, not to pot, because I'm still really proud of that, but it goes a bit skew-with. It's a fairly calm day. There's a little bit of wind. It's also freezing cold. You can see the pretty colours my fingers are starting to go, which is another reason possibly why it's opened up a bit. But to be fair with you, 40 yards, would anybody complain about that? Even if you had a FX whatever, a Daystate, Anschutz, you name it? No, I don't think so. I'm personally pretty damn happy with that. And again, when you consider that, you got to bear in mind, yes, it's more expensive than the other budget guns out there, but it's a £670 gun. You've got a ton of change left over from £1,000. Even with the scope on top, you're barely over £1,000. And that is a lovely bit of kit as well, that F30. It really is. Crystal clear, and it's got, although it's a first focal plane, so the more you zoom in, the thicker the reticle gets, but even on, I think we had it on 16 times zoom, it was still crisp to look through. So there is a bit of scope that's doing that as well. But at the same time, accuracy wise, I'm a very happy chappy. What I might do, because it's not been very long, the shooting section, obviously we want to see what the gun can do with different pellets through it. We've got a selection of pellets we're going to try maybe on another day. As you can see, we're losing light now, so we'll give the batteries a bit of a charge. We'll come back with the other pellets and see what they can do at 40 yards. So we'll have a bit more fun at it. We might maybe attack that piece of wood down there and see if we can do it all in one take or what have you. So that's it for this part of the accuracy section. Stay tuned for part 2. Okay, so we've done some off-screen accuracy testing. Next up, we're going to see if we can test some of the other pellets that have shown promise, shall we say, off camera, and then see if we can capture some good groups on camera. Now, we have these laid out in a order. On the left, you have the better pellets. On the right, you have the god-awful ones. Now, the Hades is on its own without a target card, and there's a very good reason for that. As I'm sure you can imagine, it's because none of them actually hit the target card. Now, this isn't a holdover thing or anything like that. As you can see, we've also got some other pretty heavy pellets here, like the Premiers there, and we've got the Wild Man slugs, and even the Rifle Thunders, which are even heavier than Hades. Yeah, reason for that is because they was just all over the place. Not a single one hit the target card. In fact, one of them, there's a little like branch we've got growing out the ground, like a little plant thing, whatever it is. One of them has embedded itself in that sideways. So they were corkscrewing quite a bit as they was coming out that barrel. So, I mean, maybe it's just this Ixia, but if you're thinking about an Ixia and thinking about trying these, I wouldn't bother. But as we go on, you can see we've got the SMK blacks there. Not great. The Pro Shot Precisions, now these are interesting because there's only one pellet that actually hit the card. You can see there's a little mark on top of that, which is where it's actually bounced back, and it hit the card sideways, which is interesting. And again, for those interested, the Wild Man slugs, I mean, it's not god-awful, but it's not exactly brilliant. Pay no attention to the one near the bullseye, that's where it came back. But overall, not bad. I mean, there's a couple of surprises. The BSA Storms, for instance. I know it doesn't look like a great group, but they were a victim to the wind. The wind did pick up with these, and I might even give them another try a bit later on, see how we get on with them. But the most impressive ones were, we had the Ely 10X, where you can see we've got 3 pellet holes, pretty much one on top of the other, and just 2 little flyers just off of that. Could have been me, could have been the wind. This was literally a case of put the card up, run back, have a few shots, and repeat the process. So I'm not exactly... Let's just say that the heartbeat wasn't exactly as calm as it should have been when I was doing this. Then we have the sniper lights. Now these were really interesting. So I didn't think these were really going to be all that in the Ixia, but they were actually, other than one flyer, I've got a 5p piece here somewhere. Other than the one flyer, you've actually got another 5p group at 40 yards, and they're a bloody light pellet, and in the wind I thought they was going to suffer a lot more than that, but they didn't. Then after that we have the Thunder Barracudas, which, put the coin there, that group is gone. You've just got one little pellet hole up high. Again, could have been me, God knows what. But we're going to give those another go on camera. So we're going to start with the sniper lights. We might give the Elys a miss. I might give them another go. We'll see what happens. We're going to go sniper light, and we're going to go Barracuda. And the other one we might just try is the Rifle Thunders, because we've got 3 there and 2 just off to the right. And again, that might have been maybe the wind blowing it over. We don't know. So we're going to go sniper light, Barracuda, Thunder, and see how we get on camera. Let's have a little play. Okay, so our runner-up pellets. Did they manage to step up to JSB or FX's plate? Maybe. This time I definitely, like we said, let my heart rate calm down, things like that. The wind has also calmed now quite a bit, so there's a lot less affecting the pellets. Now with the sniper lights, you can see here there are 2 groups. Now unfortunately you've only seen one group on camera, and the reason for that is because the first footage that we got, it completely, well, it's coming up file unreadable on the camera, so we know that's not going to work when it comes to editing it and putting it in the video. So we did it again, and thankfully that did work. But both groups, as you can see, did pretty damn good. As you put that there, both are, yep, yeah, it's about a 5p piece group. The one on the right is not quite as 5p as the one on the left, shall we say, but I don't think there's going to be any complaints there. Still a bit of a vertical spread, I think, like what we got on the paper targets, what we had off camera, but either way, still pretty good. Then as we come down, we have the Barracudas. Now the Barracudas, once again, the main cluster, you're talking pretty much a 5p group. Unfortunately, this piece of wood's at an angle, so I can't really get it in the middle, but you can see there's one just out of it. If I put it there, I mean, it's almost as good as 5p again. So when it comes to an Ixia, if you're looking into getting one, I highly recommend getting yourself some FX pellets, because I still think, to be honest, again, one flyer, but these were the daddy. I don't think there's any real debate over that. I mean, it's bloody close though. It's not far out with HN, and we should have got some FTTs to try this test with, because that might be even better. But if you're looking into an Ixia, get yourself some HNs or some of the Remington branded HNs, and get yourself some FX pellets or JSB or Air Arm, something like that. So we've had a good go at the accuracy. Now it's time to wrap it up in our final verdict and see just what we think of the Reximex Ixia. Oh, Reximex Ixia, final verdict. What do we think? Now this is a weird one for me, because I don't like tactical rifles. I'm sure I've not really given much subliminal messaging out. I've blatantly told you in the earlier parts of the video that I don't like tactical rifles. This is an awkward one for me. I'm still not entirely won over. It's not something that I myself, this is just a personal preference thing, would maybe rush out and buy yet. But I will say this, it has impressed me with the performance and what it can do downrange. The accuracy, what you're getting out of it, which is the most important bit, obviously if it won't shoot straight, you shouldn't really buy any gun, is, again, we just went straight into the 40 yards with this review, is superb. Obviously two groups there with the sniper lights, because the camera was going nuts, and there's the Barracudas down there. Each one of those is a 5p group, except the Barracudas, where it opens up a tiny little bit more. But again, at the same time, we are shooting outdoors on, although it's nice and lovely and calm now, you can see it's getting a bit late now. It was a bit gusty earlier. You can see there's a couple of sticks and things around the target, and you can see them blowing, so you can see I'm not fibbing on that. Shot count performance-wise in that regard, excellent. And it's a bit awkward to show you because we had to do it in 2 goes because the battery went on the chronograph, but we had 174 power shots on the chrono, if memory serves. 174 power shots. I believe the standard deviation, at least when we put the battery in, was about 2.5 feet per second, around that area, before it started bleeding off. And the total spread, if we discount the slightly hotter shots where obviously you fill a regulated gun up, first few shots will be hot. It's not every reg gun might do it, but most will be like that. So if we knock those off, which is only fair, I believe the spread was between 15 to 20 FPS throughout that entire shot string. So consistency wise, definitely no complaints. The trigger on it is superb, genuinely superb. The action on it is smooth as silk, and I will say it again, it does remind me of an AGT to cock, which is very high praise. It's smooth, but it's mechanical at the same time. There's a little, not weight as such, but you can feel there's something going on inside of there, and it's very, very well polished. We'll put it that way. It's hard to put into words. Negatives. Well, it's not going to be a walked up hunting gun for reasons that we mentioned earlier. You've got a rail on the front end, and you've got a bottle in front of that. You haven't really got a force stock or anything like that, which is a reason, again, not just to pick on the Reximex, I will pick on some of the other tactical guns as well, that sort of this sort of styling. They're really kind of designed for ambush shooting or rested target and all that sort of thing, which again, if it's designed for that, you can't really knock it for it, but at the same time, if you're looking for a gun to take to walk around the fields with, get yourself some bunny rabbits and things like that, you're going to maybe be more comfortable with something else. But again, it's not designed for that. I've not really got any nitpicks other than my personal taste in air guns for this gun. It's very, very well made. It shoots incredibly straight. He's just caught himself a Mickey. It shoots incredibly straight. The regulator on it is superb, and it does, to give it credit, it does shoulder nicely. I mean, you don't have a cheek piece on there, but that is actually pretty comfortable, which I didn't expect. And on top of that, on this freezing cold day, the fact that it's plastic and not a lump of metal like some are, is a massive bonus, because well, you don't really want your teeth chattering when you're trying to hit a target. But overall, I am very, very impressed. I'll put it that way. And if I'll put it to you like this, I'm very much so looking forward to what Reximex come out with in the future, because, and we've got to look at some of their other guns as well, because the Reximex Pretensis Walnut is the one I've really got my eyes on. I think that's a beautiful looking thing, but we'll see if we can get a review done on that soon. But if this is something to go by, I think Reximex is going to be the one to keep eyes on in the future, because they're taking on the big boys with this, I think, and at the price they're coming out at, we charge $670 for these tested. I think that they're going to end up in a few cabinets, I'll put it that way. But thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. Leave a comment down below. I do try to respond to every one of them if I can, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.